Hey there, how you going? Are you ready for an update on our previous video about KDP categories? In this video, I'll dive deeper into the latest KDP update and explore how these changes can help you boost your sales and reach your target audience more effectively. So whether you're an aspiring author or an experienced KDP pro, this video is a must watch. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe. Now let's get started. Not that long ago, I did a previous video in relation to KDP categories and how you can add additional categories to your book. This has all changed. If you log into your Kindle Direct Publishing account now and click on Help, you'll notice that there are announcements in relation to new changes. One of the changes relates to KDP categories. And if we click on the link here in relation to the full announcement, we are taken to a page titled Changes to the KDP Categories Experience. And here it explains why there have been changes to the categories section of our book listings. And here it explains that there is now a better way to choose categories for your KDP books. And it goes to list in dot points the new features of the categories. So essentially, KDP has changed over from the BISAC codes to providing you now with the ability to choose categories which are more reflective of the categories that you see on the Amazon bookstore. Now, this is a good thing. Many authors were not that happy with the previous system where the BISAC codes did not really reflect the categories shown in the bookstore, and it made it very hard to choose the appropriate category or categories for your book. The only stipulation here is that we are now limited to 3 categories, where previously we had the opportunity to submit up to 10 categories to your book listing. So I guess by having 3, we are all now on an equal playing field. Now let's click on the link here and see what else we can learn. You can now choose 3 Amazon store categories based on primary marketplace for each title during setup. Since you can now choose your own categories, we are no longer accepting requests to add or update categories. Contact us if you experience an issue. So as I indicated, we can no longer send a request through to add additional categories to our books. This is contrary to the previous system where there was an ability to send a message through to KDP with a number of categories that you had selected in order to add to your category list. A video I put together recently showed how this was done. So this is now an update to that video because that is no longer the practice in relation to adding categories to your book. We are no longer accepting requests to add or update categories. So let's now have a look at our book listing page on KDP. We can choose categories and we'll select the children's books here and a subcategory. Let's go with activities, crafts and games and activity books, and we can choose another subcategory, and here we're going to choose colouring book. It's quite a lot, but that's where this category is now located. It's non-fiction, and we can save that or we can add more. So we'll add another one now. Children's books again. This time I'll choose an animal. And since my book's going to be about giraffes, I'll choose giraffes. And non-fiction, I only have 3 choices on that occasion. Let's add one more. Children's books. We'll try arts, music and photography. And let's make it art. Now we could go drawing here. We could go techniques, or we could go painting, or we'll just go with general, and that will cover all those. And once we've done that, we save. And the categories are now saved. And in addition to this, you can click on the bluey green text there at the end of each category, and you'll be taken to that category section on Amazon. So you can see what other books are in that category and if your book belongs in that category. So this is a good way to check if your book is in the appropriate category. There was no point putting your book in a category where it's unlikely to sell. So this front page has had some changes and things are now in a different order and with some additions. We still need to choose whether we have a low content book or not. A children's colouring book is not a low content book. Where you supply your 7 keywords is now located at the bottom of the first page. The primary audience section has had some changes. There was previously a yes and no option, but now you have the option to actually select the reading age. And that's optional. You can now select the reading age and say for a children's colouring book that might be appropriate for a child between 3 and 7, this is a great way to help target that age group. There are no other changes to this page. They are the only updates. So let's have a look at the next section. There have been no changes to this section, and there's no changes to the next section where you set your price. So how can we use categories now more effectively? Well, I like using Publisher Rocket as it's a great way to see what our competitors are using. So I'm going to have a look at colouring book giraffe and see what my competitors are doing. Publisher Rocket will load all the colouring books that have giraffe colouring book in the title. Okay, so it starts to list the books and it lists them in no particular order. But as you can see, when you click on the categories, it tells you what categories these books have. Let's see if we can find a book that is doing really well. So here's one down here that's got quite a few sales. It's called My First Toddler Colouring Book. As you can see by the estimated daily sales, it's $169, and with an estimated monthly sale of $3,891. And this book is doing really well, and I guess it would be very competitive. Let's have a look at the categories this book has been placed in. And as I've shown in Publisher Rocket previously, many of these books have more than 3 categories. Initially, we were able to add 2 categories. However, there was the option to choose additional categories and send a message through to KDP to have them added to your book. We no longer have that option. We can now only set 3. So this book has 5. What you could take from this is have a look at the categories that are being used and see if they are appropriate for your book. Look at the number of sales to be number 1 in that category and see if that category is somewhere where your book could do well. As you can see by the first category, books, children's books, activities, crafts and games, activity books, colouring books, to be number 1, it needs to have 252 sales. To be in the top 10, it needs to have 105 sales. As you can also see, 73% of large publishers use that first category. So this category would be fairly competitive. If you wanted to use any of these categories, you can just grab them from here and cut and paste them into a document as part of your research. And then when you're entering your categories now through KDP, if that's the category you're looking for, you can try and find it now with the new category lister. It should be much easier now to find this exact category. What I also like about Publisher Rocket, if I want to find out more about this book, I can check it out now. It'll take me straight through to the Amazon page where it's listed, and I can see how the book is listed. So this book has a lot of information, and it has a very good A+ content listing. Lots of information. It's had quite a few reviews, and no wonder it is a bestseller. It is doing extremely well. Once again, you can see the main categories this book is listed in. This book is number 7 in children's size and shape books. If we go back and look at the categories under Publisher Rocket, you will see that this book had that category listed where it indicates that you need 240 sales to be in number 1 and 17 sales to be in the top 10 for that category. If we go to the look inside, we can have a look at more information, and this might help us in our design and planning phase. It's a fairly basic book. It has been on Amazon for some time, and obviously it is doing quite well. It'll give you some inspiration and ideas. Obviously, we don't want to copy what this author's doing, but there's nothing wrong with using some of the ideas from this book. Now, if you want to look at all the categories that are being used for the competition for Giraffe Colouring Book, Publisher Rocket allows you to unleash those categories where you can download them and put them into a spreadsheet. So here they are here, and I can now export this list as an Excel spreadsheet page. And once I've done that, I have the ability then to sort them and determine which ones would be appropriate to my book. But having said that, we are now restricted to only using 3 of these categories. One of the other good features of Publisher Rocket is the keyword search. Here I'm going to type in Giraffe Colouring Book, and Publisher Rocket will bring back all the keywords being used for this particular book. To find out more about this keyword, you can expand by clicking on the magnifying glass on the right-hand side. And here you get more information about this particular keyword. It tells you the average page number per book, the number of competitors, in this case over 1,000, the average price of this book, average monthly earnings, and the estimated Amazon search per month, and the competitive score. Now, it tells you that 100 searches per month is not sufficient. It's not getting enough searches to make it worthwhile. And the competitive score rating of 50 is regarded as moderately competitive. And again, we have been brought back similar statistics. However, in this case, the competition score is 20. So let's be a little bit more generic. Colouring book kids, that brings back much higher stats. The searches are over 11,000 per month, and the competitive score is higher at 85. Colouring book kids age 6, that drops down to 4,000 monthly searches, but still a high competitive score. Colouring book kids girls, less searches again, still a fairly high competition score. Colouring book kids ocean, that's niche down. I'm sure this one won't be as high. And as you can see, that's a great number of searches. It's not too high, and it's moderately competitive, so we're getting sales with that. So this one is a good example of a sort of book you should be niching down to, where it's getting reasonable amount of sales, it's getting reasonable amount of searches each month. The competitive score is a moderate score and not a high score. We're going to go back to our competition analyzer and search for colouring book ocean and see what books are currently out there that we will be competing with. Let's have a look at the first one. And once again, we can look at the categories, and there are a lot of categories that this book has been listed in. So let's have a look at this book, and we can see that it's a fairly basic colouring book, but it's doing fine. And it could be an example of a book that we could also create. This book has been getting sales, and it's a good example on how you can use Publisher Rocket to niche down to a book that's not too competitive and will give you a chance to make money selling books on Amazon. I use Publisher Rocket all the time when I'm creating books. I highly recommend Publisher Rocket. There is a link in the description. Publisher Rocket is just a one-off cost of $97, but you have that for life, and that includes all future updates. Now, I hope this video has removed any confusion in relation to categories. Hopefully I've shown you some ways that I use to niche down to find suitable books to sell on KDP. Feel free to leave a comment, and please remember to like and subscribe if you found this helpful. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.